The sun hung low in the New Mexico sky, casting a warm glow over the gathering at my sister's house. It was a family reunion, a chance to reconnect with relatives I hadn't seen in years. The air buzzed with laughter and the aroma of green chile stew simmering on the stove. Children ran through the yard, their joyous shouts blending with the sound of mariachi music drifting from a nearby speaker. I felt a sense of nostalgia wash over me as I stepped into the familiar chaos. Yet amidst the warmth of family and tradition, an unexpected tension stirred within me. My nephew, Jake, had arrived just before me. At 25, he was no longer the boy I remembered but a striking young man with an easy smile and captivating eyes. As he mingled with our relatives, I found myself drawn to him in ways I couldn't quite comprehend. It was unsettling, this attraction that bubbled beneath the surface. The evening progressed with toasts and stories shared over glasses of wine. Laughter echoed around me, but my thoughts kept drifting back to Jake. Each time our eyes met across the crowded room, my heart raced just a little faster. The way he laughed, how his dark hair fell effortlessly over his forehead, it all stirred something deep within me that I had long buried. As dusk settled in, we gathered around for a toast. My sister raised her glass high and spoke about family bonds and cherished memories. Just as she began recounting an old family secret involving our grandparents, something about forbidden love that had once rocked our lineage, I felt a jolt in my chest. The words hung heavy in the air, stirring feelings I tried to suppress. Jake caught my gaze during that moment of vulnerability. Our eyes locked, and time seemed to freeze around us. I wondered if he felt it too, the magnetic pull that seemed to draw us together despite all reason. A mix of confusion and excitement coursed through me as I swallowed hard, grappling with emotions that felt both thrilling and taboo. As we clinked glasses together for the toast, my heart raced anew. The evening continued with more drinks flowing freely. Laughter turned into heartfelt conversations as stories unfolded under twinkling lights strung across the patio. But beneath it all lay an undercurrent of something unspoken between Jake and me, a connection that threatened to unravel everything we knew about family. The night wore on, filled with music and dancing under the stars. Yet even among those festivities, my mind remained preoccupied by Jake's presence beside me, a constant reminder of how complicated desire could be when intertwined with familial ties. When it was finally time to leave, I felt both relieved and reluctant to part ways with this intoxicating atmosphere that had enveloped us all evening long. As we stepped outside into the cool night air together, just him and me, I could hardly breathe for fear of what might happen next. "Did you enjoy tonight?" he asked casually, though there was an intensity in his gaze that made my pulse quicken. "It was nice," I replied softly, forcing myself to maintain composure despite how close we stood beneath the stars. He hesitated for just a moment before taking a step closer, a subtle shift but enough for me to feel that familiar spark igniting between us once more. "I've missed you," he admitted quietly, his voice held an honesty that sent shivers down my spine. In that instant, everything shifted again, the weight of our connection pressing down upon us like gravity pulling two celestial bodies together against all odds. I couldn't shake off what lingered in my mind. Was there more behind those words? Did he feel this strange pull too? As if sensing my thoughts swirling like leaves caught in a windstorm around us, he took another step forward until our faces were mere inches apart. But before anything could unfold further, a shout erupted from across the yard. One of our cousins had spilled their drink while trying to juggle snacks, and just like that, the moment shattered like glass hitting concrete. With laughter erupting from every direction at this small disaster unfolding nearby, I felt reality crash back down upon me like waves against rocks on a shore, noticing how quickly desires could be drowned by familial obligations. As Jake stepped back into safety among our relatives, his eyes lingering on mine just for another heartbeat, I couldn't help but wonder what would come next after this shared glance filled with unspoken possibilities hanging heavily between us now. The night may have ended without resolution, but it left questions lingering like smoke from fireworks fading into darkness. What would tomorrow bring? Would these feelings continue growing stronger or remain buried deep within? And most importantly, could we navigate these treacherous waters together without capsizing everything we held dear? The evening air was thick with laughter and chatter, but my heart raced with a different kind of tension. I stood by the buffet table, pretending to be engrossed in the assortment of dishes, while my mind replayed the moment Jake and I had locked eyes. It was more than just a glance, it was an acknowledgement of something unspoken, something forbidden. I poured myself another glass of wine, hoping the alcohol would dull the edges of my thoughts. As the night wore on, family members gathered around for stories and memories. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, yet I felt a growing distance between myself and everyone else. My thoughts kept drifting back to Jake, his laughter echoing in my mind like a siren's call. I caught glimpses of him across the room, his smile brightening even the darkest corners, and each time our eyes met, it ignited a spark that sent shivers down my spine. "Hey there," came a voice beside me. It was my sister, Sarah, her brow furrowed in concern. "You okay? You seem distracted." "Just tired," I replied quickly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. She studied me for a moment before nodding. "You know you can talk to me about anything." "Of course." The words felt hollow as they left my lips. There were things I couldn't share, not now. As if sensing my internal struggle, Jake approached us with 2 beers in hand. "Thought you might want something stronger than wine," he said with a grin that made my heart race again. "Thanks," I managed to say, taking one from him while our fingers brushed against each other briefly. The contact sent a jolt through me that was impossible to ignore. We engaged in light conversation about trivial matters, sports scores and family gossip, but beneath the surface lay an undercurrent of tension that neither of us dared to address openly. As the night progressed and more drinks were consumed, however, that tension began to morph into something more palpable. I overheard snippets of conversation from nearby relatives discussing relationships, their struggles and triumphs, and it struck me how many secrets lay hidden within our family dynamic. It made me think about Jake's own life. He had always been charming but never seemed to settle down with anyone seriously. Was he as conflicted as I was? With each passing hour, courage fueled by alcohol pushed me closer to a precipice I never thought I'd approach. When Jake excused himself for another drink run, I followed him outside onto the porch where the stars twinkled above us like distant promises. "Beautiful night," he said casually as we leaned against the railing. "It is," I replied softly, glancing sideways at him. The air felt electric between us, charged with possibilities and unspoken words. "Are you enjoying the reunion?" he asked, his voice low enough that it felt intimate despite the gathering behind us. "It's been interesting," I admitted. "A lot has changed since we were kids." He nodded thoughtfully before turning his gaze toward me fully, those blue eyes searching mine for something deeper. "Yeah, some things never change though." In that moment, all rational thought slipped away as if carried off by the night breeze. With one swift motion born from impulse rather than reason, we kissed. Our lips met softly at first but quickly deepened as we surrendered to this reckless abandon together. Just as abruptly as it began, we pulled apart when we heard footsteps approaching from inside. The sound of laughter echoing through the open door shattered our moment like glass breaking on concrete. "What are you doing?" A voice called out from behind us. It was Aunt Linda, her expression shifting from surprise to confusion in an instant. Jake stepped back instinctively while I fumbled for words that wouldn't come. The warmth of our connection evaporated under her scrutiny like morning dew under sunlight. My voice trailed off as embarrassment flooded through me while she continued to stare at us both, her brow furrowing further with each passing second. "What's going on?" she pressed again, suspicion lacing her tone as she crossed her arms over her chest defensively. "Nothing." We were just talking, Jake interjected too quickly. His attempt at nonchalance only heightened the tension in the air around us. Aunt Linda's gaze shifted between us, a mixture of disbelief and concern etched across her features, as if she could sense there was more beneath our innocent facade than either of us dared admit aloud. "I'll let you two get back to your conversation then." She finally turned away, but not without casting one last lingering look over her shoulder before disappearing back inside, a silent judgment hanging in the air long after she left. "What just happened?" Jake asked incredulously once we were alone again under the star's watchful gaze. "I don't know." Panic bubbled up inside me along with guilt over what had transpired just moments before, an impulsive kiss now tainted by fear of discovery looming overhead like dark clouds ready to unleash their storm upon us both at any moment. "We shouldn't have done that," he murmured almost regretfully, but there was something else there too. A flicker of excitement mixed with danger coursing through his veins just like mine as adrenaline surged within me despite everything else swirling around us now threatening chaos ahead if we weren't careful moving forward together into tomorrow's uncertain dawns ahead. Waiting patiently beyond tonight's shadows cast across fragile familial bonds holding tightly onto secrets best left buried deep beneath layers upon layers built over years gone by. Yet even amidst uncertainty swirling around our hearts pounding loudly against rib cages constricting tightly within chests filled with emotions long kept hidden away, I couldn't help but wonder, could this be just beginning? Or would it lead only toward inevitable ruin? The storm rolled in unexpectedly, dark clouds gathering ominously above our family reunion. As I stood there, the weight of our shared moment pressed heavily on my chest. Guilt gnawed at me, intertwining with the thrill of what had just happened. "We shouldn't have done that," he murmured, his voice low and tinged with regret. Yet beneath those words lay an undeniable spark, an excitement that mirrored my own chaotic feelings. I glanced around at the familiar faces, laughter echoing from the barbecue pits, children running through the grass, oblivious to the tension brewing between us. The warmth of the celebration felt like a fragile veneer over a growing chasm. My heart raced as I thought about how easily everything could unravel if anyone discovered our secret. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly, concern etching itself into his features as he searched my eyes for answers I wasn't sure I had. "Just thinking," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. Memories flooded back, snapshots of family gatherings from years past, the laughter echoing through our home, the love we shared as a family. But now those memories felt tainted by what had just transpired between us. As we stood in silence, an old family photo caught my eye on a nearby table. The image was faded but familiar, a snapshot of happier times when we were all together without secrets or hidden desires. My fingers brushed against its surface as I recalled how innocent we all looked back then. But now everything felt different. Beneath the surface of that perfect facade lay unspoken tensions and desires that threatened to tear us apart. "Do you remember this day?" I asked him softly, pointing at the photo. He leaned closer to examine it, his shoulder brushing against mine. "Yeah, Grandma's birthday," he said with a hint of nostalgia in his voice. "We all thought she'd live forever." A bittersweet smile crossed my lips as I recalled her laughter and warmth enveloping us like a comforting embrace. But even in that moment of reflection, I couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling that had settled deep within me since our kiss. The weight of our connection felt both exhilarating and dangerous. "We should probably get back to everyone," he suggested after a moment of silence stretched between us like an unbridgeable gap. "Right," I replied reluctantly, torn between wanting to escape this moment and longing to stay lost in it. As we turned away from the table, thunder rumbled in the distance, a warning sign of the storm brewing not just outside but within our hearts. The first drops of rain began to fall as we rejoined our family under the large tent set up for dinner. Laughter filled the air once more, but it felt distant to me now. Each chuckle seemed to mock my internal struggle. My sister approached with a plate piled high with food, her eyes sparkling with joy as she handed it to me. You've got to try Aunt Clara's famous potato salad. It's amazing, she exclaimed before darting off into another conversation. I nodded absently while scanning for him in the crowd. He stood across from me at another table, engaged in conversation with some cousins, a charming smile plastered on his face that made my heart ache with conflicting emotions. There was something intoxicating about knowing what lay beneath that smile, a shared secret binding us together yet pulling us apart. The rain intensified outside as if reflecting my tumultuous thoughts. Droplets pelted against the tense fabric like tiny reminders of our choices weighing heavily upon me. Guilt washed over me anew with each thunderclap rumbling overhead, a reminder that storms don't only come from nature but can brew within families too. Suddenly, lightning illuminated the sky briefly before plunging us back into darkness momentarily, just long enough for me to catch his eye again across the tent. Our gazes locked amidst chaos, something electric sparked between us even through all those layers of familial bonds threatening to suffocate any chance for clarity or understanding. A sudden gust blew through an opening in the tent flaps, sending napkins flying everywhere. A chaotic reminder that life is unpredictable and messy, just like these feelings swirling around inside me now threatening to spill out uncontrollably if I didn't find some way to contain them soon enough before anyone noticed anything amiss. "Hey," he called out suddenly amidst laughter erupting around us as he approached quickly through scattered paper and raindrops splattering down onto tables below where plates had been set earlier only moments ago before chaos ensued everywhere around us now. Everything felt surreal, as if time slowed down somehow, allowing space for clarity amidst confusion swirling inside my mind, battling against reason, fighting desperately against desire, coursing through veins, igniting something primal deep within. Before I could process what was happening next though, before logic could reclaim its hold over emotion, we found ourselves stepping away from prying eyes drawn towards one another almost magnetically until finally, our lips met. A brief collision igniting flames previously kept hidden behind walls built over years spent pretending nothing was wrong, while everything unraveled slowly beneath surface, smiles plastered across faces surrounding us now caught up entirely unaware. In that fleeting moment where time ceased existing altogether, the world faded away, leaving only him and me suspended within an intimate bubble filled with reckless abandon, fueled by adrenaline coursing through veins, igniting desires long suppressed until now threatening everything built up around fragile familial ties, holding tightly onto secrets best left buried deep beneath layers upon layers built over years gone by. But just as quickly as it started, just like lightning illuminating dark skies above, the moment shattered abruptly when thunder roared again outside, mingling sounds echoing throughout tent, reminding everyone here tonight about impending storms brewing beyond mere weather forecasts. Whispers echoed amongst relatives gathered nearby, shifting their attention toward us, causing panic rippling through both hearts racing wildly against ribcages constricting tightly within chests filled with emotions long kept hidden away. I need some air," I stammered breathlessly, breaking away abruptly, feeling dizzy from both exhilaration mixed dread crashing down upon me like waves pounding relentlessly against shores, eroding stability once held so firmly intact before tonight changed everything forevermore. As I stepped outside into rain-soaked grass, feeling droplets drench skin rapidly cooling, heated cheeks flushed red from embarrassment, mingling shame rising sharply alongside thrill still lingering behind closed doors locked tightly shut, keeping secrets safe until they no longer could remain hidden anymore. The storm raged on above while below chaos continued swirling around families gathered nearby, unaware their world would soon shift dramatically beyond recognition, leaving echoes reverberating throughout, lives intertwined, irrevocably altered forevermore due choices made tonight, sealed tight behind shadows cast across fragile bonds, holding tightly onto secrets best left buried deep beneath layers upon layers built over years gone by. The rain continued to pour, each drop a reminder of the storm brewing inside me. I stood under the porch, watching the chaos unfold in the backyard. Laughter and shouts echoed from my family, their joy oblivious to the turmoil I felt. I could still taste the lingering sweetness of our kiss, a moment that had ignited something deep within me. As I turned back toward the house, Memories flooded my mind, our shared glances, the way he brushed against me as we navigated through family members. We spent the night together, wrapped in whispered conversations and hesitant touches that felt both exhilarating and wrong. Each moment was a dance between desire and guilt, a tightrope walk over an abyss. The next family gathering loomed on the horizon like dark clouds threatening to burst. My heart raced at the thought of facing him again amidst our relatives. Would we be able to maintain our facade? The thrill of secrecy had become intoxicating, yet it weighed heavily on my conscience. "Hey, are you okay?" My sister's voice broke through my thoughts as she stepped outside, shaking droplets from her hair. "Just thinking," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. She frowned slightly but didn't press further. "You've been quiet since the reunion." "Just tired," I said quickly, hoping to deflect her concern. As she turned to head back inside, I caught a glimpse of him across the yard, his laughter ringing out like music in the chaos. He was surrounded by cousins who were oblivious to what lay beneath our surface interactions. Each laugh felt like a dagger twisting in my gut. Later that evening, as family members settled down for dinner, I found myself seated across from him at a long table filled with food and chatter. The warmth of his gaze sent shivers down my spine. It was both comforting and terrifying. We exchanged fleeting smiles while pretending to engage in conversation about mundane topics, how Aunt Clara's garden was thriving or how Uncle Joe had finally retired. But beneath it all simmered an undercurrent of tension that only we could feel. When our eyes met for just a second too long, electricity sparked between us, a silent acknowledgement of what existed beyond this gathering. "Can you pass the potatoes?" he asked casually, breaking our gaze as he reached for them. "Sure," I replied softly, trying to maintain composure while my heart raced. After dinner concluded and people began drifting into groups for games and stories, I found an opportunity to slip away with him into a quieter corner of the house. The atmosphere shifted, it felt charged with unspoken words and hidden desires. "I can't stop thinking about you," he admitted quietly as we leaned against a wall away from prying eyes. "I shouldn't have let things go this far." My voice trembled slightly despite my efforts to sound firm. He stepped closer, his breath warm against my cheek. But they did. The thrill of being together in secret heightened every emotion coursing through me, the excitement mingling with fear as if I were standing at the edge of a cliff looking into an abyss below. "I don't know how much longer we can keep this up," I murmured. He nodded solemnly but didn't step back. Instead, he leaned closer still until our foreheads touched, a gesture so intimate that it sent chills racing down my spine. "We'll figure it out," he said softly before pulling away slightly but not completely. His hands lingered on my arms for just a moment longer than necessary. Before we could delve deeper into what this meant for us or how we'd navigate these uncharted waters ahead, footsteps echoed down the hallway, someone approaching fast enough that panic surged through me like ice water coursing through veins. "Let's go back before someone sees us," I whispered urgently. He nodded reluctantly but took one last look at me before we slipped back into the bustling living room where laughter filled every corner once again, a stark contrast to our shared secret lurking just beneath surface appearances. As days turned into weeks following that chaotic reunion night filled with laughter mingled with guilt-ridden moments spent together in shadows cast long by family gatherings looming ever closer on calendars marked with red ink, our connection deepened despite underlying tension growing stronger each time we met beneath watchful eyes surrounding us everywhere we went together or apart. I found myself searching for excuses just to be near him, to hear his voice or share stolen glances when no one else was looking, until finally another family event approached. A local festival celebrating culture and community spirit promising joy amidst uncertainty swirling around us all. With each passing day leading up toward festival weekend looming ahead like an unpredictable storm threatening everything built upon fragile foundations laid bare before us both, I couldn't shake feeling trapped between two worlds. The one filled with familial bonds holding tight while another beckoned enticingly toward unknown possibilities waiting just outside reach. The festival grounds would be bustling with energy, vendors selling crafts lined up alongside food stalls bursting with flavors enticing enough even for someone who usually avoided such crowds. It promised excitement, yet danger lurked behind every corner where eyes might catch sight of unexpected encounters unfolding right before them. Would they notice? Would anyone see beyond surface smiles exchanged between relatives? Or would secrets remain hidden beneath layers carefully constructed over years gone by? As anticipation built within me alongside dread creeping ever closer, threatening unraveling everything held tightly bound within walls built around hearts yearning freedom from confines imposed upon them, I braced myself for what lay ahead, knowing full well consequences awaited should truth slip through cracks formed over time spent hiding emotions buried deep beneath layers upon layers. As the days passed, the pressure of maintaining normalcy within our family gatherings weighed heavily on me. Each encounter with my nephew felt like walking a tightrope, the thrill of our secret relationship battling against the ever-present risk of exposure. I could see the scrutiny in my relatives' eyes, their laughter and chatter laced with an underlying tension that made me uneasy. The annual festival was just around the corner, a vibrant celebration that drew everyone from our small town. The air buzzed with excitement, but for me, it brought a sense of dread. How could we navigate this event without drawing attention to ourselves? The thought of being discovered sent chills down my spine. I had always loved these festivities, the colors, the music, the aroma of street food wafting through the air, but now they felt like a looming storm. One afternoon, while wandering through Santa Fe's bustling market, I bumped into an unexpected visitor, my sister-in-law, Marissa. Her presence was both a comfort and a source of anxiety. We exchanged pleasantries as she admired handmade pottery displayed at a nearby stall. But beneath her cheerful demeanor lay an edge of suspicion that I couldn't ignore. "Have you seen Jake lately?" she asked casually, her gaze piercing through me. I hesitated before responding. "Not much. Just busy with work." Marissa nodded slowly but continued to study my expression as if searching for something hidden beneath my facade. "He's been spending time with friends," she said, and I could hear the unspoken words in her tone, the concern for his choices and perhaps even for our family dynamics. As we parted ways, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. The walls were closing in, each interaction became more fraught with unspoken questions and judgments. My heart raced at the thought of Jake and how easily our connection could unravel if anyone noticed the subtle shifts in our behavior. That evening, while preparing dinner for my family, I received a text from Jake. "Can we meet after dinner?" My heart fluttered at his words. Though every meeting heightened my anxiety about getting caught, it also filled me with longing, a desire to escape into his world away from prying eyes. After dinner ended and everyone settled down to watch television in the living room, I slipped out under the guise of needing fresh air. The night sky was dotted with stars as I made my way to our usual spot behind an old adobe building near the edge of town. Jake was already waiting for me there, his silhouette outlined against the moonlight. The moment he saw me, he broke into a smile that melted away some of my worries. "Hey," he said softly as I approached him. "Hey," I replied breathlessly. "I thought we'd never find time to meet." "I know, it's getting harder," he admitted, running his fingers through his hair in frustration. "Every time we're together at family events, it feels like we're being watched." I nodded in agreement. It had become increasingly difficult to hide what was blossoming between us amidst family gatherings filled with laughter and chatter that felt so far removed from our reality. "Do you think they suspect anything?" he asked quietly. "Marissa seemed curious today," I confessed reluctantly. "She asked about you." His expression darkened slightly at this revelation. "We need to be careful," he urged. Before long, our conversation shifted from cautious whispers to shared laughter as we reminisced about childhood memories, those carefree days when life seemed uncomplicated. It reminded us both why we were drawn together despite everything else, familiarity laced with an undeniable attraction that neither of us could shake off. Suddenly, laughter erupted nearby as a group of festival-goers made their way down the street toward us, bright costumes and lively music heralding their arrival like an approaching storm cloud threatening rain on an otherwise clear night. "We should go," Jake suggested hurriedly as panic flashed across his face. But before I could respond or gather myself fully back into reality, a momentary lapse where everything else faded away, I heard someone call out Jake's name from across the street. It was one of his old friends from high school, someone who had never been part of our family circle but still held connections strong enough to raise alarms if they saw us together here like this. "Jake." The voice echoed again as footsteps drew closer. There was no hiding now. In an instant decision fueled by instinct rather than thought, I grabbed Jake's hand tightly and pulled him into the shadows behind me just as his friend rounded the corner looking for him. "What are you doing?" he whispered urgently while trying not to laugh nervously at how close we were standing now, our bodies almost pressed together in darkness where no one else could see us but where everything felt exposed nonetheless. "I couldn't let them see us," I replied breathlessly as adrenaline coursed through my veins, the thrill mingling with fear creating an intoxicating cocktail that left me dizzy even amidst uncertainty looming over us both like dark clouds overhead threatening rain yet again tonight. As moments passed and Jake's friend moved on without spotting us, I released his hand reluctantly, feeling warmth linger where skin met skin, a reminder that what we shared transcended mere attraction. It was something deeper yet fraught with complications neither one truly understood how to navigate fully without risking everything around them too. The festival began officially tomorrow. Excitement buzzed around town like electricity crackling through wires readying themselves for a storm. But all I could think about now was how precarious our situation had become since those first stolen moments shared between us 2 years ago when lines blurred between familial love and something altogether different. That night ended abruptly when Jake leaned closer, his breath warm against my cheek, and whispered softly enough only for me, "We need to talk more openly about this." But just then, a loud commotion erupted nearby followed by shouts echoing down alleyways filled with festival lights illuminating faces filled not only joy but also tension brewing beneath surface smiles exchanged amongst friends turned strangers caught unaware by secrets hidden too long. Tomorrow would bring more than just celebrations. It threatened revelations too painful, perhaps even impossible to ignore any longer. The festival dawned bright and vibrant, a cacophony of colors and sounds enveloping the small town. I could feel the weight of anticipation in the air, a blend of excitement and dread swirling within me. As I walked through the bustling streets, the laughter and chatter felt like a distant echo, overshadowed by the turmoil brewing beneath my surface. My nephew's presence was magnetic, drawing me in even as I fought against the pull. We had agreed to meet at the festival, a decision that felt both reckless and exhilarating. But with every step closer to our rendezvous, I grappled with the reality of what our connection meant, not just for us but for our families as well. The streets were lined with stalls showcasing local artisans, their crafts glimmering under the sun. The aroma of roasted chilies wafted through the air, mingling with the sweet scent of funnel cakes. Families gathered around tables adorned with handmade decorations, their joy palpable. Yet amidst this celebration, an undercurrent of tension threaded through my thoughts. As I approached our meeting spot, a quaint little corner near a stage where traditional dancers would soon perform, I caught sight of him leaning casually against a wooden post. His smile was warm yet tinged with uncertainty. He looked around nervously as if he could feel the eyes of our relatives on him even from afar. "Hey," he greeted softly as I approached. "Hey," I replied, trying to match his casual tone while my heart raced beneath my calm facade. We exchanged pleasantries about the festival's offerings, but an unspoken weight hung between us. The thrill of being together in public was intoxicating yet terrifying. What if someone noticed? What if someone spoke? The fear gnawed at me like an insatiable beast. As we wandered through the crowd, laughter erupted from nearby booths where children played games and families enjoyed treats together. A group of cousins waved enthusiastically at us from a distance, their carefree spirits a stark contrast to our hidden reality. "Do you think they suspect anything?" he asked suddenly, breaking my reverie. I shook my head quickly. "No, not yet." But even as I said it, doubt crept in. The whispers that began circulating after last night's gathering still lingered in my mind like shadows refusing to fade away. "I heard something," he continued hesitantly. "About us." My heart sank at his words. "What do you mean?" "A rumor," he replied cautiously. "Someone mentioned seeing us together, when we kissed." His voice dropped to a whisper as if saying it aloud would make it more real. Panic surged through me at that moment. My pulse quickened as I scanned our surroundings for any familiar faces that might be listening too closely. "We need to be careful," I warned him urgently. He nodded but looked troubled by something deeper than mere caution, a conflict brewing behind his eyes that mirrored my own turmoil. Just then, an argument erupted nearby among family members gathered around one of the stalls. Voices rose above the festive music. Accusations flew like arrows aimed straight for hearts already burdened by secrets. "Why didn't you tell me?" one voice shouted over others. "I didn't think it was necessary," another retorted defiantly. I turned away instinctively. It felt too close to home, too reminiscent of conversations we'd avoided having ourselves. The tension was palpable enough to cut through the jovial atmosphere surrounding us. "Maybe we should go somewhere quieter," he suggested after glancing toward the commotion with concern etched across his face. I agreed silently as we slipped away from prying eyes into a quieter part of the festival grounds where fewer people mingled among booths filled with crafts and trinkets. Here, under strings of colorful lights casting soft glows against dusk's approach, we found solace in each other's company, if only temporarily. "I don't want this to end," he confessed suddenly as we paused beside an empty bench draped in shadows cast by nearby lanterns swaying gently in evening breezes. My heart twisted painfully at his words. They echoed everything I feared yet longed for simultaneously, a desire so strong it threatened to dismantle everything around us if left unchecked. "It doesn't have to end," I whispered back cautiously despite knowing how precarious our situation truly was. The very foundation built upon secrecy felt frail beneath pressure from family expectations looming over us like storm clouds threatening rain without warning. But just then, a sudden burst of laughter drew our attention back toward where family members had gathered again after settling their dispute moments earlier. Now united once more under shared joy rather than division brought forth by hidden truths waiting just beneath surface, smiles exchanged amongst friends turned strangers caught unaware by secrets hidden too long. "We should probably get back," I suggested reluctantly as unease settled heavily upon me once more, an unsettling reminder that no matter how much we wished otherwise, our connection remained forbidden amidst familial bonds stretching tighter than any embrace could ever hope to encompass fully without consequence looming overhead like thunder threatening storms ahead. He nodded slowly but didn't move immediately. Instead, his gaze lingered on mine, a silent plea for understanding or perhaps something deeper still lingering just out of reach between us both. And then came another shout from nearby. The sound carrying urgency mixed with confusion echoing down alleyways filled with festival lights illuminating faces filled not only joy but also tension brewing beneath surface, smiles exchanged amongst friends turned strangers caught unaware by secrets hidden too long. Tomorrow would bring more than just celebrations. It threatened revelations too painful, perhaps even impossible to ignore any longer. The next day dawned with a bittersweet glow, the kind that made everything seem both vibrant and heavy. I wandered through the bustling streets of Santa Fe, where colors danced against the backdrop of a clear blue sky. The festival was in full swing, yet the laughter around me felt distant, muted by the weight of my thoughts. My mind drifted back to him, the boy who had become a man, my nephew whose presence stirred emotions I had long tried to bury. I found myself in a local bar, a favorite haunt filled with familiar faces and the scent of roasted green chilies wafting from the kitchen. The air buzzed with excitement as families gathered for lunch, sharing stories that echoed through the walls. But I sat alone at a corner table, nursing a glass of wine while my heart raced with uncertainty. The invitation to the island getaway loomed over me like a storm cloud ready to unleash its fury. "Are you going to that island thing?" A voice broke through my reverie. It was my sister-in-law, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Maybe," I replied nonchalantly, though my stomach twisted at the thought of facing him again in such an intimate setting. "You should go. It'll be good for everyone," she encouraged, unaware of the turmoil brewing beneath my calm facade. "We all need some time away from this place." Her words hung in the air, tempting yet daunting. Time away could mean freedom but also confrontation with feelings I had tried to rationalize away. As she walked off to join her family at another table, I couldn't shake off her enthusiasm. It felt almost like she was nudging me toward something inevitable. The day progressed as I mingled with relatives and participated in festival activities, but every moment was tinged with anxiety about what awaited me on that island. The thought of being alone with him sent shivers down my spine. Would we succumb again to our reckless desires? Or would we finally face what we had become? Later that evening, I found myself standing by the festival grounds as night fell. Lanterns flickered overhead while music filled the air, a lively tune that made it hard not to sway along. But instead of dancing, I stood frozen in place when I spotted him across the crowd. He looked different somehow, more confident yet still carrying that familiar hint of vulnerability in his eyes. Our gazes locked for what felt like an eternity before he approached me, weaving through throngs of people. "Hey," he said softly, his voice barely audible above the music. "Hey." My response came out more breathless than intended. "I heard about the getaway," he continued cautiously. "Are you going?" "I'm thinking about it," I replied carefully, gauging his reaction. His expression shifted slightly, a mixture of hope and apprehension crossed his features. "I think you should." "Why?" The question slipped out before I could stop myself. It felt loaded with implications neither of us dared to articulate fully. "Because, maybe we should talk." His gaze dropped momentarily before returning to meet mine. There was something raw in those depths that made my heart race anew. "I don't know if talking is enough anymore," I admitted quietly. He stepped closer then lowered his voice further as if afraid someone might overhear us amidst laughter and cheers surrounding us. "There's something we need to address, about us." My pulse quickened at his words. They hung between us like an unspoken promise laced with danger. Just then, a loud cheer erupted nearby as fireworks exploded overhead, a dazzling display illuminating our faces but also drowning out our conversation. In that brief moment of distraction, he reached for my hand instinctively. Warmth surged through me as our fingers intertwined, the simple act igniting memories too powerful to ignore. But then reality crashed back down around us as families gathered closer together under exploding colors above, reminders of obligations and expectations looming larger than ever before. As fireworks faded into smoke trails across the sky above us, so did our brief moment of connection dissolve into uncertainty once more. "I have to go," he said suddenly after glancing toward where family members were gathering for photos, a reminder we couldn't escape from even amidst our shared moments together. "Okay." My voice barely rose above a whisper even though inside turmoil brewed anew, the urge to pull him back into this whirlwind growing stronger by each second spent apart now felt unbearable. "We'll talk later," he asked hesitantly before stepping away reluctantly. Each step he took felt like losing part of myself along with him until finally lost amongst laughter echoing behind me. The festival continued around me but instead felt like an unending blur filled only by thoughts spiraling deeper into chaos within myself. What did this all mean? What would happen next? As night gave way slowly into dawn's embrace, once more bringing forth another day ahead filled not just celebrations but also uncertainty looming ahead, I received an unexpected message on my phone from an old family friend who had been part of those gatherings long ago. "I think it's time you learned some truths about your family history." The words sent chills racing down my spine. What truths awaited me? And how would they change everything? The invitation remained on my mind. The getaway promised both freedom and confrontation, but now it seemed intertwined irrevocably with revelations waiting just beneath surface tensions threatening everything familiar once more. The sun hung low in the sky as we arrived at the island, casting a warm glow over the landscape. I stood on the shore, watching the waves crash against the sand, my heart a tumultuous mix of hope and dread. The getaway was supposed to be a fresh start, an opportunity to confront everything that had been left unsaid. Yet, with each step I took towards our shared destiny, I felt the weight of our hidden connection pressing down on me. We had decided to keep things low-key at first, blending into the vibrant atmosphere of the island. The local market was bustling with life, vendors called out their wares, and laughter echoed from every corner. But beneath that cheerful facade lay an undercurrent of tension that neither of us could shake off. Every glance he threw my way ignited memories of our past encounters, moments filled with stolen kisses and whispered confessions that now felt like a heavy burden. "Do you think we can really do this?" he asked one evening as we strolled along the beach, his voice barely rising above the sound of crashing waves. I turned to him, searching for reassurance in his eyes. "We have to face it eventually," I replied softly. But as days passed, it became clear that facing our reality was more complicated than either of us anticipated. An unexpected revelation about our family history surfaced during a casual conversation with an old friend of my mother's. She mentioned how secrets had always lingered in our family, secrets that had caused rifts and heartache over generations. "What kind of secrets?" I pressed her, curiosity piquing my interest. She hesitated before continuing. "There were whispers about forbidden relationships long before your time." Her gaze flickered towards my nephew as if sensing our unspoken bond. The implications hit me like a wave crashing against rocks. Had we unwittingly stepped into a pattern woven through generations? The thought rattled me more than I cared to admit. That night, as we sat under a blanket of stars, I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were standing on precarious ground. "We need to talk about what this means for us," I said finally, breaking the comfortable silence between us. He sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair. "I've been thinking about it too," he admitted. "But what if it changes everything? What if we lose each other?" His words hung in the air like smoke from a fire, a reminder of how fragile our connection truly was. Just then, laughter erupted from a nearby bonfire where other family members gathered. It reminded me how intertwined our lives were and how easily everything could unravel if anyone discovered our secret. As we moved closer to join them, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me, a premonition that something would go awry if we didn't address our situation soon. That night at dinner, surrounded by family and friends sharing stories and laughter, an unexpected argument broke out among some relatives about past grievances tied to family secrets. Voices rose higher than intended as accusations flew back and forth across the table. "Why can't you just let it go? It happened years ago," one cousin shouted at another. The tension was palpable. It felt like watching a storm brew on the horizon, inevitable chaos looming just beyond sight. My nephew caught my eye across the table. His expression mirrored my own unease as we both understood how quickly things could spiral out of control. Later that evening, while others mingled around the bonfire, he pulled me aside into a shadowed corner away from prying eyes and ears. "This isn't just about us anymore," he murmured urgently. "What if someone finds out?" "We have to be careful," I replied tersely. The weight of impending consequences pressed heavily upon my chest. Couldn't he see how risky this all was? Then came another twist. A distant relative approached us with an unsettling smile etched on her face. "You two seem awfully close," she remarked with feigned innocence but knowing eyes that pierced through any pretense we tried to maintain. "Just enjoying family time," I replied too quickly while forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. As she walked away chuckling softly under her breath, dread settled deeper within me. Suspicion hung in the air like fog rolling in from the ocean, a reminder that secrets rarely stayed buried for long. The next day dawned bright but fraught with uncertainty. Every interaction felt charged with unspoken words waiting to erupt. We spent hours wandering through markets filled with handmade crafts and local delicacies but found little joy amidst growing anxiety surrounding what lay ahead. "I can't shake this feeling," he confessed finally as we sat on a secluded beach later that evening watching waves lap against rocks rhythmically, the tranquility starkly contrasting turmoil within us both. "Neither can I admitted quietly before glancing out toward horizon where sun dipped low casting orange hues across water's surface, a breathtaking sight marred by shadows lurking behind every wave lapping ashore. A decision loomed large between us. One either choice would define not only our relationship but also impact those around us irrevocably. It felt insurmountable, almost paralyzing in its enormity, yet necessary nonetheless. As dusk fell upon island enveloping everything in twilight glow illuminating paths ahead, shrouded uncertainties loomed ever closer threatening all bonds forged thus far. Then came another unexpected twist. The arrival of an uninvited guest disrupted everything. My sister's husband appeared unexpectedly after hearing rumors circulating back home about familial tensions brewing among relatives here. "What are you doing here?" I demanded, incredulously, struggling hard against rising tide, panic swelling within chest threatening drown every ounce, clarity remaining intact amidst chaos now unfolding around us. He looked between us, assessing situation before replying coolly, "I'm here for answers." And just like that, the fragile web spun carefully over months began unraveling thread by thread, revealing truths hidden beneath surface, threatening not only relationship forged between two but entire families bound together through years, shared memories now hanging precariously on edge, brink, disaster looming ever closer.